through work Monday, takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your game, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome into another edition of the Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I'm Rob, and I'm here with Cody and Alex, and we are talking rookie tight ends today. And boy, I can't wait. I love all the rookie tight ends. You always got to draft.
Loves talking tight ends.
Dude, you know it, man. Every rookie draft, I try to take one. So
I
go deep diving.
Samaro is the self-proclaimed tight end whisperer, which seems to not be true.
We've got
the real tight end whisperer here, though. Mr. Alex, our tight end winner from last year.
He's good with his tight ends, ain't he?
Knows how to work them.
Very pessimistic.
I'm going to say real quick what it was. You had a couple of really, really slick calls last year. You called the Gerald Everett climb that nobody else saw, and that helped you a ton. And I think you were really low on somebody that everyone else was hyping, Zach Ertz, maybe.
Yeah.
And those two calls won it for you. I mean, that's what did it. It was great.
Yeah, and then the Dad Bod consensus Komet in the top 5 did not pan out. So we all swung and missed on that one.
Hey, you look good at the end of the year, though. So
yeah. So are you back on the hype train with Komet?
Oh, 100.
Are you actually?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Crap! I just slid him out of my top 12.
Yeah.
He's
no,
he's
he's
20th.
Yeah, he's a top 10 tight end for sure this year.
Ooh,
very interesting.
I'm going to listen to Alex. I trust it.
Very interesting. I wish we could have got Coop on this podcast. He's the real tight end whisperer. He gave me not Gerald Everett. Evan Ingram. That was his. Yeah. I mean, he loves Evan Ingram.
That was his big one. I remember that.
Yeah.
Him and Steph both, I think. I can't remember. Steph might have been off Ingram or one. I can't remember.
Yeah. So we got a dad bot topic today. I think Alex probably threw this one in, huh?
Yeah.
Was this you
or
Cody?
Yeah.
This is a good
one.
Is allergy season kicking your ass with yard work season? I mean, for me, I'm going to say 100% yes. I have these oak trees above me that are dropping these like pollen everywhere, and I have to blow it off every 10 minutes of my patio because my dogs eat it. So every 10 minutes I'm out there blowing off my patio, and it blows in my face, and I can't get anything done.
It sucks.
It does. So I'm not condoning this as medical advice, but I have something that works quite well for me when it comes to this season of allergies.
Cocaine. I knew it.
Not quite, but I think this could be bad advice if I, say take it daily. Ibuprofen weirdly does amazing work for my allergies. I don't know why it is. I don't know if it just cuts inflammation, but it works better than allergy medication for me. And it was a fluke. Like I had a headache, but a lot of times my allergies will cause a headache. So I had a headache, so I took ibuprofen, and I'm like, wait a second, I can breathe also. Like,
interesting.
And it was semi life changing. I try not to do it year round, obviously, but these few weeks here, I'm popping ibuprofen.
I do the Allegra D with the nose spray.
You go
I'm double dipping.
Yeah,
I do
Flonase.
I do Zyrtec D and surprisingly ibuprofen.
You do the ibuprofen too?
So this is what I found out is I have a buddy who's a doctor, and I didn't know this, but allergy medicines increase your blood pressure, and ibuprofen does not really. So I guess the way like your blood pressure affects what the allergy medicine does helps, but with your increased blood pressure also increases your senses.
Okay.
So yeah, the ibuprofen's a real thing. Yeah, it's true.
Oh, so it's not
give
my
it a go
medical advice.
tomorrow.
There's real medical advice. I like this.
Cody
was
stumbled
backyard
upon
testing.
it.
Just don't take a lot of it because it'll tear your stomach up.
No more than 6 a day.
Jesus.
No more.
I'm joking.
Like you have an infected tooth?
Right.
All right, let's get into some news so we can get into these tight ends that we all want to talk about. All right, so first thing that came up, Davante Adams kind of had some words for the Raiders today or yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we don't see eye to eye on what we think is best for us right now. He had some other stuff to say, but I just couldn't get into all of it. But he doesn't sound super happy with what they're doing, trading Derek Carr and reworking everything. Alex, what do you think? What's the outcome of Davante Adams with the Raiders? Like, do you think he's going to be there long term? Is he going to stay throughout his contract, or is this more? He's just kind of poking the bear.
It's 12,000, Willie. No more than 12,000.
High score. I don't like it. I also don't hate it. There's a part of it where I'm like, it's a little overblown. You know, it was a couple sentences taken out of his entire statement regarding it. But what I say is he does have a fat contract. If the Raiders aren't winning halfway through the season, I think McDaniels is gone and Adams is traded.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like what Davante thrives, he really does thrive with the deep ball, right? That's his bread and butter. He made a living with Aaron Rodgers going deep down the field. That's not Jimmy G's game. It was Derek Carr's game. Derek Carr loved to throw the deep ball. Was he good at it? No. Like he still threw that ball though. Is Jimmy G going to throw that ball? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, on that part of it, I'm not even going to maybe say Jimmy G can't or won't. I think if I'm Davante Adams and I'm something like 30 and I came here to win a championship and I joined my college buddy and you trade him away without a plan. It's one thing if you thought, hey, we have Aaron Rodgers or we're going to get X, Y, or whatever, whatever that is, whatever your plan is. They ended up with the same quarterback, except he's not his buddy. And I don't mean the exact same player, but I don't think Jimmy's a big upgrade over Carr necessarily.
Not at all.
For me personally.
Is that so? Do you think he's more mad that they didn't trade for Aaron Rodgers?
I think he's mad with what he ended up with after they shipped off his buddy.
When it came, like when they asked Adams, like obviously he responded that like going to play with Carr was important, just because chemistry they had from college. But he was leaving regardless, and it was always on the uncertainty of what was going to happen with Rodgers. And I think he, in his mind, thought Carr was the best destination who could actually pay him. And there's still
a team a team he knew was going to feed him his 180 targets.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not
I think
terrible offense. Yeah. I don't think the Raiders offense could get worse with what talent they have. I think they actually somehow become better.
Yeah, but do you think that Garoppolo is going to feed Davante Adams?
I don't think. I think, and I traded this guy away. I think who has the uptick in this offense this year is Hunter Renfrow.
I can see that.
I think
that's why Davante's mad.
Is he the George Kittle sort of?
I mean,
I know he's a different position, but George Kittle was that
safety net.
You want to say safety, but yeah.
I think so. I think first year in McDaniel's offense, they just didn't know what to do. Outside of Adams, Renfrow was hurt for a little bit. They didn't really target him a ton. Waller was hurt, so it just didn't open up as much as they wanted. And I think with Jimmy G, he's very good at game management and getting the ball out of his hands quick and accurate. And I think that's what they want.
Alex, where does Genesis land on your 80s rock band ranks?
Top 10. I'm not an idiot.
Top 10. Top 10.
I'm not a moron. So.
It's like he's been asked that question before. He's like, he was ready.
Does Phil Collins' studio sound amazing in the shower? Yes, it does.
Second piece of news we got going on. Ron Rivera wants to see Antonio Gibson involved more. He was talking to the media and kind of got into it. Cody, are you drinking that Kool-Aid again?
This is just hilarious to me. It will be true until week 3. That's what they do.
That's what they say. And then you trade him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you trade him away.
I actually believe him, but he'll decide he hates him again. Like that's what they do every year. A few weeks in, they decide they hate Antonio Gibson.
It's interesting, man. I want him to be good because he's flashed. Like he has had those games where you're like, man, this dude could be a top 15 back for fantasy. Like he really could be. But
he's just a one-trick pony. That's the thing. He's a very predictable running back. He runs upright. He's good when he's outside, and he's not very good in the middle.
And this offense is gonna be bad.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's the quarterback?
Well, the Sam Howell's the man.
Yep.
Could be Cam Newton. We don't know.
Right.
And then
I'll take Taylor Heineke at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what goes on in that quarterback competition.
It's tank for Caleb.
Brissett.
Yeah.
There's a couple of teams. talking about
Brissett
that.
could start.
There's a real possibility Brissett could start.
Yeah.
Should.
Saints GM thinks Michael Thomas can still be a 100-catch receiver. Alex, is it possible? Do you ever see him? I guess the better question is because he's talented when he's on the field. He can get open. He can catch the ball. The better question is, can he ever stay healthy again for a full season?
I mean, when was the last time he played more than like 8 games? Wasn't it like 4 years ago?
I was going to say 3 years, but it could be.
Like he played a little bit sparingly last year, missed pretty much 2 years before that. Like, I mean,
2019 is your answer.
2019.
So 4 years almost.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
Could he
bad in 2020, missed 21, bad in 22?
Yeah, he could in theory be very good, but the Silicon Valley banks could be safe at this point too. I mean, who knows?
Good reference.
I love it.
Great reference. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. Again, a talented player when he's on the field, just for whatever reason, he's had these injuries that don't seem too super serious at the time. And then it just keeps him out for the whole season. So,
yep.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if there's something behind the scenes stuff that we don't know, but we'll see.
I'll say this. I don't buy it. But Michael Thomas has been an easy player to forget about. And I think he could be a little bit of an Olave hindrance because we're going to see a lot of Olave borderline top 12 talk, I think. And he could be an annoyance for that. There's a chance. I mean, if he gets if Michael Thomas gets 130, 140 targets, Olave is not top 12.
If they're bad, you see him. If he's like, so say the Saints are bad, Michael Thomas looks pretty decent. Do you think he's traded?
I could see that, but that contract's
they'll eat
still
a
hairy,
lot.
I think.
Yeah, they'll have to eat a lot. I think what ends. I mean, regardless, as an Olave owner, you want the Saints to kind of be bad and be behind. Because 100%. When the Saints end up losing games, Michael Thomas ends up spraining his toe, and he's out for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It's just magic. Whenever the Saints aren't looking great, Michael Thomas is injured. It's so crazy.
Do you think Olave benefits from him being on the field?
He's a target monster. I think he's the wrong kind of player for Olave to benefit. He's a target monster.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is a thing sometimes. You know, it's a distraction. It's something else. But he's just a target hog to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but was Olave so good that he can't be that target hog?
He's not better than Michael Thomas healthy yet.
Yeah, but
I think I'll go a little bit on the flip side. I'll go Michael Thomas is still too good to let Olave be top 12.
Yeah.
So I won't.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's still, in theory, when he played, I mean, the first 3 games last year, he was like wide receiver 3.
Olave or Thomas? Thomas was.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. When he's healthy, he's still arguably the best route runner in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%.
Cap hits 14 too, so it's movable, more movable than I thought.
Yeah.
Dude, I got wrecked. I got wrecked.
Let the man live. Let the man live. It's freezing.
Irish people are always getting picked on, man.
Cody,
Irish people always getting picked on.
We had this conversation a few weeks ago, I think, but we have a frost advisory up in Cleveland.
Yep.
After the pod, I got to go outside and cover my flowers.
I brought mine in 20 minutes ago. Oh,
Yeah.
you know what?
Yeah.
I'm a classic derail. I got to do this. I'm sorry. You brought it up. What's the tree that you think would be least likely to live in Ohio?
A lemon tree.
Palm tree.
Well done, Alex. Now, what kind of tree do you think my wife bought?
A palm tree. It's very
Yeah,
common.
we've got a flipping palm tree.
Very common.
It's common?
It's a
For
house,
I'll
like
take
indoor
white
house.
women in
Yeah.
the suburbs, yeah,
It's not
maybe.
indoor. It's outside.
You got to move it in the winter. You got to
I
keep that.
moved
You
it
stuff
might as
tonight.
well
going.
put like a chipping green next to it and just think that you're not in Northeast Ohio.
I literally carried this thing in a pot tonight. And it probably, I mean, potted it probably weighed 50, 60 pounds. Super
Yeah.
annoying.
Very common. Good luck with that when it gets big.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Let's get to some of these tight ends, these rookie tight ends. We're going to start with the first one taken. We have Dalton Kincaid, round 1, pick 25 to the Buffalo Bills. I have his stats up here from Utah, and he was at San Diego. I didn't realize that. So let's start with, he's a very high productive tight end. Dawson Knox is still there. Do you see Dawson Knox killing Kincaid's value? Because I think after last season, we all were like, all right, Dawson Knox, he's not the guy. Like, we get it. He's not going to be a very productive tight end in this offense. Do you think Dalton Kincaid can come in and be productive, or do you think Dawson Knox kind of takes that away? Cody?
I think Dawson Knox takes it away. Now, that being said, so I think it's an uphill battle this year. I think they're both going to be on the field enough to where you just don't see a strong fantasy season from either of them. And I'm talking a top 8 finish, let's say. That being said, I think Dalton Kincaid is a real deal. And when Dawson Knox is gone, I think you've got, these tight ends, I'm going to mention this a little bit tonight, but these tight ends are athletes now. They're not blockers. Yeah. This guy's not a blocker. This guy's a go catch the ball. They run faster 40s than we've seen tight ends run, but just as a rookie, and especially with Dawson Knox, I mean, we saw Kyle Pitts be good as a rookie, but it just doesn't happen. I don't see it for this year.
No.
I mean, this dude's got hands for a tight end. Like, he catches.
Didn't start playing football until senior year of high school. Was all state the first year he ever played football. That's unbelievable. This
dude's no joke. Alex, what do you think about him?
I think possibly Dynasty, you roster him. I don't love either of them this year for sure. I understand that they used a first-round draft pick on him, but I think it was an overvalue for how good of an athlete he is. He didn't have the greatest competition. He had 5 years to learn how to play college football. I think he's good. I think he's got great hands. I think he will be solid, but it always comes back. Rookie tight ends, very rarely do they end up doing anything. I think it was an overvalue drafting him in the first round, especially in a pretty deep tight end class. I think you could have got him a little bit later. I don't think anybody was reaching for him in the first round.
He's not the best all-around tight end.
He's athletic, but he's not the fastest. He's not the biggest. He plays like a wide receiver at 240 pounds.
That's why I'm high on him, though. Exactly all the stuff you just said. He's not going to be blocking. He's not there to block.
He's a terrible run blocker.
There were cracks in this offense late last season. There were cracks in this offense late last season, and they brought him in for a reason. Red zone efficiency, and the dude can just go and make plays. You can't throw the ball 160 times constantly to Stephon Diggs. You can't do it and sustain an offense.
I agree.
Josh Allen's great. I get it.
And Diggs is 30.
Gabe Davis had the opportunity last season to catapult himself into a legitimate number 2 receiver, maybe demand 120, 125 targets. He did not do it, right? So they went and spent a 25th pick to go get a receiving tight end. And they're going to use, I think they're going to use him a lot.
Bold take. I think the Bills did this to hide how incompetent Josh Allen is throwing the ball in the red zone.
Ooh. Yeah. I don't think that's the worst take ever.
I think they're hoping having an extra receiving target is going to improve his decision-making. We'll see.
Yep.
They want mismatches with him in the red zone. That's all I'm going to say.
They want an excuse to, look at not overpaying Josh Allen. That's what they're like. Oh, we didn't waste our money.
Yeah.
Something here as we talk. If you think these guys are going to be relevant for redraft, let's bring that up. But I think a lot of this is around dynasty. I mean, just rookie tight ends, it's tough. And so
I would take a flyer on Kincaid
for this year.
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Late, but like for my tight end too, if I have like a decent top 12 tight, like a Njoku,
I was gonna say
Evan Ingram, one of those guys. Yeah, I'll take a flyer and think this dude might spark.
Yeah,
could be your last round pick.
Yeah, I mean it would be late.
He'll be there.
It would be
dynasty. He's got to be. I actually haven't looked at dynasty ranking for tight end, but I mean he's got to be top 10 in dynasty for sure. Maybe a lot higher than that.
Going top 10 all the time.
Yeah. There's a lot of old tight ends in the NFL right now.
A lot of old tight ends, and nobody. I think it's a different wave of tight ends coming through, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some Sam LaPorta. Round 2, pick 34 to the Detroit Lions. No more baby Hawk. Sorry, Alex. Or not Alex. Sorry, Brian. What is this offense going to look like with J-Mo back after his suspension? Alex, are you in on LaPorta or out?
I like him. I think he's one of my favorite dynasty snags. If you can get him.
Dude's a beast.
He's just, for the most part, Iowa tight ends are pretty good.
Yeah.
Noah Fant might be the only one who hasn't really lived up. But it all depends with J-Mo coming back. What I do like is if he gets the nod starting off, they're going to throw it to him. They have 2 out of their starting 5 receivers on suspension. They just lost DJ Chark, and if somebody tells me that Marvin Jones is there, I'll, bounce their head off the concrete like a basketball. But I do like him. I think I like him more than Kincaid. He had better competition.
I really don't hate it. I don't hate it. Cody?
I said it. There's just the tight end landscape in terms of what teams draft highly has changed so much. 4.5, 940, 35-inch vertical. Another athlete. Yeah. I mean, for as big a human beings as these tight ends are, 4.59 is booking it.
Yeah,
100%.
On an Iowa offense, I mean, they were terrible. Like they were a very good defensive team the last 2 years. But
Look
it's
at him
like
on the screen right now. I'm sorry.
What I'm saying.
But like that's fast.
Yeah. You give him the ball, he's outrun. He might outrun some safeties.
Yeah.
This is Big Ten comp too.
Yeah.
Big Ten competition.
I just think so much talent.
I'll give Mario one brief shout out. He was taking him a couple places in dynasty rookie drafts and was mentioning how he was undervalued and didn't like seeing guys like Mayer and Musgrave and some of those go before him. And I think he could be right.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
Big fan.
Hawkinson, before he was traded in week, I believe it was 8, he had 41 targets. He was on pace for 100 targets in that offense. The entire rest of the Detroit Lion tight end room, even including the weeks that Hawk was there, had 47 targets total. 9 of those were for touchdowns. You put LaPorta in there, they clearly want a receiving tight end. They utilize it all the time. When they had Hawkinson, they utilized him all the time. Was he the most efficient tight end? No, I don't think he was in this offense. But if you can put LaPorta in there, do some of the gimmicky stuff that they did last season in the red zone, how they utilize some of those terrible tight ends that they have on that offense, LaPorta could be a legitimate top 10, top 5 tight. Maybe not this season, but I think in the future he could be a top 5 tight end.
Yeah. Highest upside, I think.
I agree, man. I agree. I love Kincaid, but I think the Detroit Lions is the perfect landing spot. The head coach was a former tight end. I mean, he loves utilizing it. We're gonna see them use LaPorta. I'm just excited to see how and how often they do it.
I agree.
All right, Michael Mayer is the next guy. Round 2, pick 35, Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, it's an interesting landing spot for Mayer. Are we expecting Waller production from Mayer, especially with Jimmy G? I mean, Jimmy G is there, so it's a very interesting kind of combo. He loves his tight ends. Cody, I'll start with you. Do you think we're going to see the same production that we kind of saw from Waller with Jimmy G?
Not Waller production as a rookie, but this is the guy that I think has the highest likelihood of returning a top 12 fantasy season as a rookie. He is the most experienced. He is the best all-around tight end. And I think you would struggle to argue otherwise. I know he wasn't the highest drafted. It was because he's not the athlete the other guys are, and that's what people are chasing. This is the best tight end in this draft. Might not mean the best for fantasy, but he's the best tight end. And so that gets you on the field early, more so than just being fast and jump high does. And so I think he's the starting tight end day one and makes him the most likely fantasy relevant rookie. But in Dynasty, he's probably third.
Alex, what do you think?
So coming into college, I think he was either like 1 or 2 ranked tight end coming out of high school.
It's been since he was 16 years old.
Yeah,
he was
a physical specimen. Did he get much faster? No, but there's a lot of Pro Bowl tight ends who weren't running 4.6s, low 4.7s, and I think the big thing that McDaniels really wanted to do with Jimmy G is, hey, we need to move the chains. We lost games in the fourth quarter last year, half of our games in the fourth quarter last year, because we couldn't move the chains. And he is Jason Witten. He is going to move the chains.
That's his pro comp, and I think it's perfect.
Yeah. He might be the safest bet. Redraft, he's the tight end I'm taking.
He's a stalwart in this league for 10 years as a starter. I have no questions about it.
But so let's go for fantasy football purposes, right? Just strictly fantasy football purposes. We're talking dynasty mostly. Redraft, I get it that he could be the most productive this season. Do you ever see him cracking top 5?
Ever?
Yes. That's a ceiling for me.
Yeah,
but I think he's a safe top 12 guy in the future. I think he is. I think he is an 8 to 12. I think he's I'm trying to even think of a not Jason Witten, like a more current player off the top of my head, who is just right in that range every year. There's not a perfect one, but
there's not. I mean, the recent years, it's been so up and down with everybody.
All over the place, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could he be very consistent? Yes, I can see that, where he's getting 6 to 7 targets a game, coming down with 4 or 5 of them, 50, 60 yards, and like 5-6 touchdowns a season. Like, I get that. That's going to be fine. I just don't ever see him really turning into a top 5 where he's coming down with 10 touchdowns, or maybe not even 10, but like 6 and 7. I think that's kind of his range. And I don't think he's going to get the yards. It's a lot steeper competition in the NFL. The safeties and linebacker position in the NFL is completely different than it was when Jason Witten was there.
You know who?
Like, he might be a Jason Witten, but Jason Witten wasn't going against some of these safeties that can shut down a tight end.
I heard this a lot too about Mark Andrews.
That's a better comp, I think.
I heard a lot about Mark Andrews. Nobody thought he was going to be the top 5 dynasty wide receiver coming out of college.
Fair.
Do you think Mark? So here's another, I guess, a different kind of question. Do you think Mark Andrews would be a top 5 tight end without Lamar Jackson?
Yes,
I agree. I don't think he's necessarily 1 or 2, but I think he's still an elite tight end.
Big. He moves well. He's not the fastest tight end in the league.
Personally, I think Lamar Jackson for a tight end that's the quarterback that I would want for my tight end, just because he's so mobile. He's going to move the pocket around, and he's going to look for middle of the field when he's scrambling around, right? Like, we know the receivers in Baltimore always suck. No matter who's there, it doesn't matter. They're going to suck just because Lamar's the quarterback, and he's going to look for his tight end.
Where you get away with it in some of these offenses too is, keep in mind when you are using tight ends in these ways that we're talking, you're losing them as a blocker. And guys like Lamar obviously do just fine not having that extra blocker.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a piece of it, to where your offense, if you're going to let guys release and be these top tight ends, they can't be hanging around blocking. And I do think Mayer's going to hang around and block quite a bit.
100%. I can see that. That's the other kind of, like, he's going to have probably the highest snap share out of all the rookie tight ends. I'm very confident in saying that. How much is going to be blocking? Because he's a great blocker.
It's going to open up the offense, man. Like the Raiders, like last year, my surprise offense was the Lions. And me and Rob were really heavy on that last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really high on golf. And this year is the year where I'm like, buy the Raiders offense.
Interesting.
Buy it.
I can't buy any offense with Jimmy G unless Shanahan's running.
You say that, but Jimmy G, when he played at San Francisco, had fantasy starters.
He had Shanahan, dude.
You know what I'm saying? McDaniels,
I get it.
It's based off one season. I think healthy Renfro, Adams, they drafted. Josh Jacobs looked good. A healthy offensive line, a defensive line that actually plays this year, and Jimmy G not turning the ball over could be a huge difference.
We'll see. Luke Musgrave, round 2, pick 42 to the Green Bay Packers. Oregon State boy. Had some injuries in college, which is kind of indicative of these stats that we see up on the screen.
Less than 600 yards in 4 years.
I believe he played 2 games in 22.
I love how Cody.
I think he played half the season in 21. So he was
COVID season. 2020 was shortened by COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, correct. Yeah. Correct. Okay. Was it an overreach? Just because of how. All right, so tight ends were flying off the board, right? Tight ends were flying off the board early in the second round. But we all know Green Bay needed a tight end. They got rid of Tunyon.
They apparently thought they needed 2.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Alex, do you think this was a big overreach for them going for Luke Musgrave? Because he was consensus. I was looking at a lot of, the experts and whatever you want to call them, kind of deep diving into the tight end class. He was up there in the top 5.
Yeah, but like in every other draft year, your tight ends, your top 5 tight ends, unless it's Kyle Pitts or Hawk or somebody, like you're taking one tight end in the first round. And then the rest are going like third.
It's different. 3 of them were projected to go in the first. So okay, let me
But it's bad. It's
because they're not tight ends anymore. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's just.
But are they? What was the most inconsistent, frustrating thing to do last year in fantasy? Figure out what tight end to play.
Yeah,
100%.
Like we keep saying, oh, that's so different. Is it?
They're drafting them as receivers. I think that's why there's so many drafted so highly. They're drafting them as receivers.
They do that, and then they forget, like, oh shit, they have to block.
They have to block. Yeah, I know.
Every time. Like it's like, oh, you Tunyon. The last year was supposed to be Tunyon's year. He's athletic. He's big. He makes bullshit. It's all the BS that gets fed for people who just don't watch football, who don't watch film, and they just hear people talk about it to get clickbait. It's like 24-hour news. It is just there to get your attention. It was an overreach. They knew it, hence why drafting another tight end.
I'll add to it. He is highly developmental. This isn't a 2023 play, and it's not a 2024 play either. This guy has limited snaps, limited experience, has not shown that he can be a productive receiver.
No.
But he is fast and he jumps high.
Yeah. Against teams, like, for example, like, people were talking about how Raw and Njoku was coming out of Miami when he came out. This is just based off of thin air. This is like combine bullshit stats. But he ran a fast 40. Who fucking cares? What did he do in college? Who did he play in college? Nobody.
Here's the biggest positive physically. He's 6'6" with a 36-inch vertical. There might not be a player in the league that can outjump him. That part is probably true. But you still got to be able to use it somehow.
Yeah. It's super developmental.
What I'll say.
Rounder.
What I will say is I watched some of his film. The limited film I could find.
I was going to say you had 30 seconds of film. Oh, that's awesome.
There was enough film out there for me to watch.
It's on TikTok.
The dude's a really good receiver. He is. He can catch the ball. He finds weak spots in the zone. He can beat linebackers and safeties. And his quarterback, in every game that I saw and watched all these plays, his quarterback laid him out to dry all the time. And it's not his quarterback's fault. It's the fact that his quarterback didn't have a strong arm. So by the time the ball got to Musgrave, there was a safety coming right in his face, just teeing off on him. It was time after time after time. I saw him just get destroyed, get back up, and then he just didn't get back up a couple times. Like, he took a lot of nasty shots
for about 2 years.
Yeah, dude, like, it was brutal.
15 targets.
He had 2 games. So that's
well,
8
and one thing you don't love to see is the catch percentage, and it's just college, and it could be quarterback play. There's so many things in play here.
Quarterback suck,
but for a tight end, I mean, tight ends have high catch percentages because they're generally short area targets. And
that's the other thing I'll say about him. He was deep down the field a lot.
He is.
Deep down the field.
He's a weapon. That's what he is, or a hypothetical weapon. Let's say it that way.
Have fun.
Yeah. Do I hate the stats? I hate where he played. I like the player. He's a fun player to watch. That's for.
You can't say that. There's nothing to watch.
Go watch a few of the games that he was in, man. He's
it's like Ray Charles. Like, I love watching movies.
My least favorite part about it, I'm okay with the developmental player who has some of these characteristics. My least favorite thing is I know we're going to talk about it, but drafting a second tight end. I just think it complicates things so much.
I get what you're saying, Cody, but we'll move on right after this. I get what you're saying, that he's developmental, but I don't think he is as much as you guys think. I really don't. I know there's limited snaps and stuff, but he's good. Luke Schoonmaker.
I'm going to name my next son Luke just because he's got a great chance of being an NFL tight end.
Luke Schoonmaker. Dallas Cowboys, round 2, pick 58. Cody, do you think that he's the safest tight end of the bunch going to Dallas?
Mayer's the safest by a mile, but he does have a path to being an early starter in the NFL. I don't think his ceiling's high, but he's a path to being an early starter.
Alex, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's an argument you can have if he starts. I don't like Ferg. I don't like Hendershot. They're not any, one was undrafted. The other one was a late 4th round pick.
You're not scared of them, yeah?
Yeah, those guys are there for depth. Them drafting him in the 2nd round is, hey, we plan to get you out there and make you a part of the offense. And to be honest, what they were doing with their wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 last year, they didn't know. And they're going to run the ball more this year. So I think that with them running the ball more, slowing the game down a little bit, I think it's going to get – I'm going to call Schoonmaker Moonraker, like the James Bond film. But I think it's going to give Moonraker a lot more.
That's good.
I think he can get 85 targets this year.
Interesting.
I don't see it.
I think he can.
Unfortunately, I don't see it. I get that he's going to a team with not great tight ends.
Who else outside CD are they throwing to? I mean, Gallup.
Well, you got the only thing is Gallup is a full season removed from the ACL. He's flashed. He looked good when he was healthy, and then you bring in Brandon Cooks. Not to mention that you have Tony Pollard.
Okay.
Not to mention Tony Pollard's going to be there.
Right.
If they don't bring in another running back and he's on the field a lot more than he was last season, he's a pass catching threat. Like, there's no, like, would you rather dump it off to Schoonmaker 10 yards on the field or Tony Pollard 3? Like, I'd rather give it to Tony Pollard on a dump off.
I think the only time the Packers had relevant tight ends is when your boy was the coach there, and I think he wants to get tight ends more involved, and I think he was pretty upset that Kellen Moore did not. I think McCarthy wants to get a tight end involved, and my main reason is you're taking a tight end, which I thought where he dropped, I get taking him in the 2nd round because the rest were gone, but I think it was a great pick for the Cowboys. They needed another red zone threat. Cooks has never been a red zone threat. Gallup isn't really a red zone threat. They needed a red zone threat. CeeDee's been getting double teamed.
Come on, dude. Are we sure Pollard ain't going to be gassed with the full?
That's true. We don't know.
Oh, God. I hate that argument.
I like Pollard. Trust me, I would love to have him.
Pollard. How are we talking top 5?
Pollard.
Haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
But,
I think Pollard is a safe top 10 bet, and I wouldn't argue with top 5.
Yeah, I think he's top 5. If again, like, I'm sure they're gonna bring somebody in.
Eddie Lacy might be available.
Yeah, bring in Lenny. That's fine.
Who doesn't need a 300
He's too good, man. He's too good.
Yeah. Schoonmaker is the guy to watch out for.
Yeah, I get it. He's a fun player.
On your fantasy waivers.
Brenton Strange, round 2, pick 61 to the Jags. Do you think this? We'll kind of talk on the Ingram front. So Ingram's, obviously signed a 1-year deal. Do you think this is kind of a replacement pick for Ingram? Is he going to be there long term? Do you see Ingram walking after this season and them kind of plugging in Strange to this offense? Alex?
I think. Sorry.
I would say Cody, you go first.
Well, I think that's what they think. But this one's actually, for me personally, probably my least favorite pick. We're looking at a guy here who is 6'3", nothing special about him from an athletic standpoint, and his best year in college was 300 yards receiving. I just don't see it. See it, especially where you drafted him.
Do you think he was brought in? I mean, we're using a round 2 pick on a blocking tight end is pretty wild. But do you think he's just there to kind of be that blocking?
I think they believe
more
in him.
of a blocking
I think they
piece?
think he's
because
I think they
Ingram's
think
not
he's
blocking.
the Ingram replacement. No. And I think they could use him that way this year, but I think they do think in the long term he's their Ingram replacement. I just don't think this one ever pans out for me.
I think I think it was an overdraft for the Jags. My one thing with him is he blocks better than Ingram, and he's not on the slower end spectrum of tight ends.
No,
he's
not
average. He's not Ingram 4.4 fast, obviously, but he runs a 4.7. He does play really well. I do think it was a reach, but kind of like what Cody said, they drafted him. It's more of a, here, this is your tryout. We're going to see if you're not drastically worse than Ingram, we would rather pay you a few million than pay Ingram $12 million.
And let's not forget,
very much be how it goes.
Let's not forget that they have Calvin Ridley now, Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones.
Trevor Lawrence is going to get paid.
So do you think this is more
$50 million?
I mean, Evan Ingram was a glorified receiver last year, right? Like he's split on the outside more often than not.
For sure.
Do you think this is more of like, all right, we're going to use Strange as that prototypical tight end on the in line, let him block.
Not with the second round, you don't draft him.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
That's what's messing with me a little bit.
I think they think more of him. I just don't see it.
I don't see it.
And he has a good blocker for size. He's not a big guy, but he has a good blocker for size.
Yeah,
I agree. But this is one I'm interested to see, where I think the Jags have made a lot of good moves outside of Urban Meyer, and this might be the guy that's like, oh shit, they saw something we didn't.
And they did it with Christian Kirk because everybody made fun of him on Christian Kirk.
It's fair.
I liked Kirk. I even said that.
And Ingram, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Ingram was such a risk because he was always injured at the Giants, and they always had bum quarterbacks throwing him the ball. But it's interesting. It's a question to be asked. Like, is this going to be the guy? We don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we'll see what happens with Ingram and this whole the whole offense could evolve next season without Ingram and go to more of completely spread out offense and use him on the inseam and
I think
chip
Ingram's
out and do more of a
next year.
prototypical. Yeah, we'll see how this kind of plays out.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this offense moves forward because they were fun last year. Tucker Kraft. Round 3, pick 78 by the Green Bay Packers. So this
I've
is
only
the
mentioned that part a few times, right?
The double dipping on the tight end for the Green Bay Packers. Very interesting back-to-back rounds that they go with tight end. Cody, are they going to be running 2 tight end sets a lot, or are they just kind of swinging for the fences and hoping one hits?
I think they drafted a tight end and they drafted what they think could be a unique player. And I think this is their tight end.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's more likely to see the field this year, significantly.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Musgrave, you think Musgrave was drafted as kind of like a
he's a flyer,
Swiss Army knife, like see what he can, he can be that kind of
an extra receiver.
I don't want to say elite, but like a unique player for an offense.
Yep. A player that you can use like a Jimmy Graham. And I know that's maybe not the perfect comp or anything like that, but you're looking for that. And now here in the third,
like Evan Ingram,
the tight end.
Like Evan Ingram.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
How they used the Jags used him last season. Alex, what are your thoughts on this dual tight end draft?
I think it's this makes sense. I think Tucker in the third round where they got him makes sense because he's coming from an FCS team that does have productive NFL players.
And he was productive in college.
He was productive in college, and he was an athlete, and he was big, and he wasn't slow, and he blocks. And I think with the Packers offense, I think they're going to run the ball a ton, and they're going to be dumping off to open up the game for Christian Watson, to where the first tight end pick doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense. This draft pick made sense. Musgrave didn't make sense.
He did his damage 2 seasons ago. Last year he was hurt, I believe, for probably seven games. But in 21, 84 targets, 65 receptions, 770 yards, 6 touchdowns, career average of 75% receiving, reception percentage, PFF grades all in the 80s in that 21 season.
He's a nice rounded prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah. More of like a mayor.
He's a good tight end prospect.
Yeah.
And
he can play.
The differences between him and Musgrave is Musgrave's a tiny bit quicker and he jumps a little bit higher. I just don't love it.
We'll see. I'm excited for Musgrave. I really am.
Yeah, I love watching paint dry too, but
we'll see. Cameron Latou, round 3, pick 101 by the 49ers. Do you think he's kind of a cheaper Kittle that they're going to plug in and hope that he turns into, this is definitely the project of the bunch, right? Like, I don't see him really hitting the field too much this season. Do you think that this is their kind of shot to replace Kittle long-term? Cody?
It's their shot. I think this one is potentially a decent size miss for me as well. I don't think that I really see it. But Alex, this is somebody you like a decent amount, isn't it?
I think it's the way they look at it is what Alabama did with him. It was kind of like, hey, here's a position that you're not coming into college playing. We want to put you here. I think he's very strong. I think he's a very strong, semi-athletic tight end to where with the new offense in San Francisco and with Kittle, I think they're going to see it's like, what did they really like? Kittle's fast, but what did they really like about Kittle is he plays angry. He's very physical. He's probably the most physical tight end in the NFL. He blocks better than any other tight end in the NFL. To where it's worth him to, hey, we need depth. Kittle does get hurt from time to time. We need a strong tight end who can make athletic plays. It's not that I don't love him, but I think he's a guy that you never know. I'm not picking him up in anything, but he's worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I think my struggle, and maybe this shouldn't really be my struggle. Sometimes I think I get a little too nitpicky on little things. But if you're going to be small, you need to be athletic. And I know that's too nitpicky, but I made the joke in my notes that he's 240 with a stack of cheeseburgers in his pocket. Like he's a slight guy. I think he might have technically. 6'4". I think he was 242 at draft stuff, but I'm pretty sure he played in the 230s. And so, and you look at Alabama, they didn't have receivers. Like Gibbs led them in receptions, not yards. This guy was their 4th leading receiver on a team that didn't have receivers. He really wasn't productive in an offense that needed producers.
With the
Bryce
number
Young.
1 overall pick.
Yeah.
He's
And
only
so
played tight end
it's a
for
stretch
3
for me.
years.
And that's a fair point. Maybe
so
still,
why
maybe
draft
he's
him in the 3rd round?
The
Right?
reason why I drafted him in the 3rd round is, again, Kittle was fast. But when you think of Kittle, it's not that because he's burning. Kittle was a 6'4", 240-pound tight end who played like he was 260 pounds. And I think that's why they like this guy. Is he's a 240-pound tight end who has linebacker strength, who can put a defensive lineman on his ass and move quick enough, not fast, but quick enough to make some plays. Again, this is a 3rd round pick. This is where you take tight ends that you think are going to be, he's a depth move.
It's fair.
He's a backup for injuries. That's purely what he is.
Is he somebody you're rostering in Dynasty for you, Alex?
No.
Okay.
I'm just being honest. Like I'm not. If you have 4 spots,
I think that's the right answer.
If you have 4 spots on a taxi, and let's say you traded away some picks, and you only were able to make a certain amount of picks, like let's say
pick them up undrafted, maybe.
Yeah, then you let them sit, but it's purely like, I mean, I remember Goddard being Ertz's backup, and like you're just sitting there knowing that he might be okay. You didn't think he was going to be amazing, but as soon as Ertz looks, a little off or it gets injured, Goddard takes his job. It's a flyer.
Stuff can happen, that's for sure. And honestly, tight ends is a position where stuff can happen
easily.
We did talk about the Moonmaker a little bit. It was probably, I'd say, 40 minutes, 35 minutes. Let's say 30 to 40, right around there. If you want to go back and take a little piece
into this. Quick synopsis is Alex loves him. Cody, you're decently into him.
I think he's an early start in the NFL. I just don't think he's highly fantasy productive.
And I'm out on him. So we're all over the board on him, to be honest with you.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. I don't see it. But for Latu, the 64% career reception percentage, like I don't know, man. I'm not into it.
Just okay.
Yeah, he's one of those players. Like you could say it about any kind of rookie, right? Like, he got drafted. Like this dude, let him sit a couple years. He could be really good. You could say that literally about any rookie. Like,
here's one thing about him. I said you talked about the catch percentage. You're like, it's just okay. I actually feel like almost every angle you look at him, you can say it's just okay. There's just nothing that says, all right, we got.
He might turn into like an okay tight end in the NFL. But fantasy purposes, like I just don't ever see a path to him being, again, top. Like when I'm looking at these tight ends, I'm like, can this dude ever become a top 12 tight end in the NFL for fantasy purposes?
And really, honestly, with as highly drafted these guys are, you're saying who can be a top 3? Because we got top 3 guys aging, top 2 guys at least aging, and this is a stacked class. There's a good chance somebody in here is a Mark Andrews or Kelsey. There's a good chance of that.
100%. And who's it going to be? I mean, I think it's going to be Musgrave, but time will tell.
Crazy, but...
I'll go Kincaid.
Jokes.
Honestly, probably the best bet's LaPorta. I think we're all super into LaPorta.
For both of you, if you have to, you have to take 2 of these tight ends. You're in Dynasty, you have an option for 2 tight ends. Who are you taking, Cody? Who are you taking?
LaPorta and Kincaid.
Okay. What about you, Rob?
Kincaid all day. Yeah, LaPorta.
Okay, I'm taking LaPorta and Mayer.
Okay, a little safety and Mayer.
I think Mayer's safe. I guess
not just safety. I know you see the upside. Yeah,
for sure. I really like Mayer. Yeah. I don't think Mayer gets the love he deserves.
He's going to be an all-pro in this league. I believe that. I think he's. But when I say all-pro, I think he's a really good all-around tight end. He's everything. If you're actually looking for a tight end, he's everything you want. Yeah. Everything you want.
And he could be a top 10 fantasy tight end. I just don't ever see him really crack in top 5.
When was the last time the Bills had a Pro Bowler tight end?
I don't think they've ever had a good tight end.
I don't know this at all, but it wasn't Dawson Knox. I mean, Dawson Knox
isn't good. Like I don't think Dawson.
But a year ago he was.
That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't does that mean that was his stats good? Yeah. Does that mean that he was good?
Oh, I got you. I thought you were saying he wasn't good for fantasy.
No,
I don't know. He may not. Yeah.
Like as a player, like I don't think he's that good.
He's still,
but he was
long,
your typical like Dawson Knox. All right, so he didn't have the profile Kincaid had. Like Kincaid's a first round pick. Whether he should have gone there or not, I don't agree. I think he's a second round grade, but Dawson Knox was a late second, early third round grade coming out of college. Like when people say they weren't expecting Dawson Knox, like there was no expectations of him being good. Yes, there was.
That doesn't mean that he's good though.
But that's the same thing with
the
Kincaid.
Expectations were there.
Just because the expectations are there, we don't know if he's good.
Or are they using him as a pass catching tight end? Like I think they're going to use Kincaid. Like I think Kincaid is going to get 80 to 100 targets this season.
And
I think we should be really careful on productivity for the season for a lot of these guys. I know we've got Kyle Pitts recency, but
I think it's different when you're a first round pick.
For me, it's like there's two tight ends I think you've got to like the one thing I've looked at is the Bills are going to throw the ball to Diggs. They're going to get their running backs involved, all three of them, whatever they use. They're going to throw deep to Davis, and Josh Allen's going to run a ton. With Detroit,
who else is there?
But Josh Allen running the ball takes up a third of the offense.
They're going to throw the ball. Historically, the past 3 seasons, they've thrown the ball over 100 or 550 times.
You also have to remember, Knox is still there.
And I don't think he's going to – I think his targets go for – I think he had 65, 70 last season. I think they go down to 30.
I think I don't disagree. I think he might have 30 and Kincaid might be in the 40s. I think
they're both in the 40s.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's a big separation to where if you look at someone like LaPorta, you know he's going to get targets. Goff isn't running the ball.
Do you? You're talking about muddy works, right? In Buffalo with Dawson Knox. You're not mentioning J-Mo in Detroit. You're not mentioning Amon-Ra, who's going to demand 130 targets. You're not. Yeah, it's about it. Well, how about Gibbs though? Gibbs is going to get.
But Gibbs is still in theory. Like it's still a theory. Swift was supposed to be the dude, and he wasn't. Like in theory, Gibbs is going to get touches, and they're going to run the ball. Like Monty, like they're going to run the ball.
They're not going to throw the ball 550 times.
Yeah, I mean, Goff is going to throw the ball top 10. Like he's throwing the ball probably in that top 10 range in pass attempts this year.
I do think it's close to that.
So, like, if you're thinking that it's just all going to, Sun God and J-Mo after his 6-game suspension, like, where else is it going? Monty's not going to be the guy who's receiving them. It is going to be Gibbs if it's any of them. And to be honest, I don't want really either of those running backs this year. But LaPorta is safe. He is safe in targets. There isn't anybody who is going to take his spot. He's going to come in as a starter day one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
That's why like obviously you picked him as the two tight ends that you want to pick.
Yeah, I still think LaPorta is going to be very good.
Exactly.
Very good. So we're arguing my 2 favorite tight ends. You know what I mean?
This is a fair point on the conversation to at least keep in mind. I mean, it's not going to necessarily guarantee field time, but
52 million.
It doesn't mean he's not going to be on the field.
It's a big number at tight end.
52 million. You know who makes
what's
around the same yearly is Evan Ingram.
Well, okay, so what's more valuable to the franchise, $52 million or their first-round draft pick?
Well, I think what you're saying is fair, but at the same time, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can put your $52 million player on the field and you can put your first-round pick on the field. Yeah. And without intending to do so, they're naturally going to hold each other back from high-end productivity.
Kincaid is going to be a good football player, a bad fantasy asset this year.
We shall see, boys.
We shall see.
We shall see.
I think that is pretty well the rodeo.
Yeah. I got the outro music coming in.
Mario thinks he cuts out right here. You guys hear me?
There it is.
Follow us all the places, folks. I've got Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere.
All the major streaming platforms.
All of them. Follow them.
And we'll have start following hashtag tight end expert Alex.
We'll see.